Yeah, well, and welcome to this very impromptu stream that I just kind of decided to do at the 11th hour. And in light of recent events. And so, yeah, I just thought I'd, just go for it and see what happened.
Where do you want to start? America being fucked up or Britain being fucked up?
Oh,
that's a good question. Would you like a jelly baby?
Oh, I mean, America's fun because we're not there. Although, judging by what's coming out of Prestwick Airport, yeah, we might be getting a bright orange fuckwit in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, is that? Yes. I've missed whatever that is. Oh dear.
Oh, Prestwick Airport has been told to expect military Boeing 757 on the 19th of January.
Weird.
Yes.
Now that would be the other plane the president flies in.
Yes.
The day before the inauguration.
Yeah, that does seem very suspicious.
Yeah.
It's like, that's weird. That's suspicious.
Yes.
Isn't it just?
Is he doing a runner? I'm dying to know what's going to happen on Wednesday.
Yes.
What happened Wednesday? Was that when the laws kick in and shit?
No, Wednesday is when they open the Electoral College votes. They are counted, and it is stamped, signed, and sealed that Biden is president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a formality, isn't it?
It should be a formality, but there are means to screw with it.
Yeah. People, the Electoral College is dumb.
Well, the Electoral College was necessary.
It was. It's now dumb.
See, I would say if the Electoral College was to do its job, it would have prevented Trump's inauguration last time.
Yep.
The job of the Electoral College was to prevent someone like Trump coming to power.
Yeah. So,
and it failed.
You're right, Spooky. I had a hunch.
I think we all had a hunch when we found out that Boris Johnson was going to be doing an address.
Yes.
See, the thing with the Electoral College is that I think the US needs to get to a point where the Electoral College, their job is just to vote for whoever won the popular vote.
Oh, that there are several states who are already doing that to basically
National Popular Vote Interstate Compact.
Say again?
Is the legislation behind it that they're trying to push is the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Yeah. I read up.
Yeah, that's the one. So the point is that only requires a few more states to agree to it.
I think they're about 70 Electoral College numbers off now, which means they've got like 200 and odd.
But what worries me is it still would allow a state, even if they pass it, it would potentially allow a state to say, well, we're not going to declare who we're voting for till last, and then screw with it. It's still
true. They'd only be able to. That'd be a one-trick thing, like the exploding head.
Yes.
And so I'd hope they'd be smart enough not to. But then again,
well, it's the same problem we've got in this country about the Queen having the right to the Queen being able to refuse to give royal assent to law.
Yeah, like she could, but she shouldn't.
Well, no, the point is she could, but it would only happen once.
Yeah.
Because we'd be a republic the next day.
Yeah. I really confused lots of people the other day when I said that the UK is, in the same way the UK is a monarchy, it's also a theocracy, technically.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is.
I got shouted at by several Americans for that.
I mean, the problem is you're stretching it a bit. It's a theocracy in the sense that we have biblical, but we are not trying to instill biblical law. We're not trying to.
Oh no, it's only a theocracy in the same way it's a monarchy, where the monarch doesn't really have much power anymore.
Yeah. I was. It bothers me that we need to get rid of that. I don't know how we're going to get rid of religion from our government before we get rid of the monarchy, and I'm not in that much of a rush to get rid of the monarchy.
Yeah, I feel like recently Parliament itself has moved more towards pluralism, which is nice.
Mm.
And if we can get that shift going, it might as well be secularism.
Yeah. I mean, we need. I don't know. I mean, would you get rid? Would you? Are you Republicans?
If it was up to me, Elizabeth would be our final monarch. I think the monarchy is old and antiquated, and it costs the taxpayers, a lot of money, and I think
I will be the awkward fuck to bring up that Parliament gets to take the rent effectively from their land, and their land puts more into Parliament than they get paid in tax money.
Firstly, that's not true, but only in direct numbers. It counts in direct numbers, but not in terms of costs.
Okay, I've not double checked the back end.
The direct numbers, you're correct. They get a percentage. They get 70 million back from 700 million, I think it is, that they put into Parliament. Those are the direct numbers. But the problem is, if you're talking about getting rid of the monarchy, you're not talking about getting rid of the monarchy. The crown lands would still belong to the UK. You'd still take them back. So you immediately get rid of that argument straight away. But the point is, they cost us more than that in terms of just policing, in terms of monitoring, in terms of upkeep on their building, all the other things we pay for that aren't part of the sovereign grant. Yeah, they made that quite nicely, so it looks like they cost us about 10% what they give us, but you don't see all the other costs that are distributed across the government.
Like I said, I've not double checked numbers. I just kind of saw the ins and outs, out bit. Right.
No, but see, I have an argument I've not heard for why to keep the monarchy. Right, and that is that they won. They won from an evolutionary perspective. That family, they won. They consolidated their power. They got to that position. They have earned a place of privilege one way or another. Now, how long a society should continue giving them that privilege once they've got it is a different matter. Yeah, but from a societal point of view, from a human point of view, they've won the game.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I think I would despise being a member of the royal family purely because I despise having social interaction, and the media would, But yes.
Yeah. But who's to say that the game has finished?
Well, no, entirely.
Yeah, I think the game is just going to be an ongoing process, basically, until humans die out.
The problem is, you at some point we have to accept. You're in a very difficult thing over whether or not. I assume you accept selfish gene model of success from the perspective of because that offers. I mean, there are people that are doing far better than the royal family.
Yep.
But in terms of whether or not you are better in a cooperative society or you are better in a bloodthirsty race to the top.
Yeah. So, how to express this without being a raging leftist?
The problem is evolution. We have seen that a level of cooperation,
yep,
is better. Full stop. with a level of individualism being better as well. And this is where I think that every people on the left completely fail, and this is where I think people on the right completely fail. Because I think for a well-functioning society, you probably need both.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm of the opinion the left doesn't necessarily exclude that. It's just a lot of people on the left don't take that into account.
I think you're right. I think the problem is I think the left fails to take into account human nature more than the right relies on exploiting it.
What my dad used to say, and probably still does, because we haven't talked about this for a while. But what he says is, if you abolish the monarchy, what you'd end up with would be President Blair.
Yeah.
And do you really want that?
You see, this is one of those things where I think Labour have been unharshly hurt by Blair. As much as he got a lot of things wrong, he did a lot of good as well. And I think the Labour Party have been punished for him for too long. He was okay.
Yep. Yeah,
He's not great. He's not
very
but he's
Blair
not evil.
Blair is frustrating. I think because obviously I don't remember any stuff to do with Blair. From what I've read of it, it seems like he was kind of like he got into a position of power, had some bad policies, and then people threw a tantrum about his whole group.
The bad policies were all pretty much all universally to do with the war, right?
Yeah.
A war that every vocal Iraqi group in the UK was screaming for him to do, and we did not choose to do it on our own back. We basically went along as a lapdog.
Yeah.
If we went and started that war, I think Blair would have something to answer for. But we didn't. America went and started that war, and we thought we can probably have a positive influence on it if we help.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what our military commanders said in their journals at the time. The Americans had no plans whatsoever for what to do. They knew how to win the war, but no clue how to reconstruct, no clue what to do afterwards. Right? And
this is why I'm not currently an accelerationist. We have zero plan for afterwards.
They had no exit strategy.
No.
And now the Tories have no Brexit strategy.
What do you mean Brexit's done?
I mean,
it's over.
Sorry, I'm being facetious, but they had no. I've lost my train of thought now. But we went into that war on the force.
Premise.
On a false premise that there were weapons of mass destruction.
Yes, but again, that's a lie. We did not go into that war because of weapons of mass destruction.
No,
we went into that war because the Americans asked us to, because George Bush asked Tony Blair to. That's why we went into that war.
Yeah. What the holy hell is Dave absent-mindedly chewing on?
Half a dozen things on my desk. And there are still.
Blair did some good.
I didn't realize how much good Blair did until a lot later, in terms of how he reorganized. He managed to establish behind the scenes an awful lot of changes in government.
Yeah. I have read that, but again, I don't remember.
No. I mean, from a financial perspective, I was much better off under the Labour government, and I run a very successful I suppose you call me an entrepreneur now, my own business, and there were three of us. We employed people. We were very successful and we were very well off, but that was in part down to the government. So I can't be critical of it, particularly of his economic policies. I know that once I got ill and once basically I had to sign off work, I'm a lot worse off now than I ever was under the Blair Brown government.
Yeah,
I mean that kind of. I think that comes from the fact that throughout my lifetime, the NHS has been slowly reduced and reduced. But then the first Prime Minister I remember is David Cameron.
David Cameron was okay. He was a middle of the road Tory. You don't get much better Tory Prime Ministers than him.
Fair. But the thing is though that this means that my first Prime Minister I remember of the UK is Prime Minister Pig Dick. And it's not gotten any better.
No, it was not. Theresa May was more right wing than Boris, but Boris is just a blithering idiot. He doesn't really know what he wants, which is, to be honest, in some respects, in our favour.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd rather have an incompetent. I'd rather have a competent. Go on, sorry.
The problem that Boris has, I think, is he's trying to please everyone.
Yes.
He's trying to please us, but he's also trying to please his backbenchers.
Yeah, which you can't do.
I know.
Half the Tory party right now wanted no deal because they would have made an absolute fortune on it.
Oh, yeah. And not to mention that there's now Brexit is done and dusted. Well, sort of. Well, but the ERG, the European Research Group, are now becoming an anti-lockdown group, and so now they're putting him under pressure to keep businesses open and keep children in schools.
That makes me angry as all hell. And
yeah.
I mean, I can't believe McVeigh.
Yeah,
I can believe McVeigh, but because McVeigh, she is a horrible woman. Say again, she's Catholic. Yeah. She holds her Catholic in her last thing that we had her here. She used she pointed out her Catholic credentials and what this meant to her. And you just look at her and go, you are one of the most evil Tories we've had in a generation. Sorry, talking to someone off screen.
No, it's all good. Yeah, it is. It's insane. And I this has possibly come up a couple of times before, but like before 9/11, was everything more normal? Because I don't remember pre 9/11. I wasn't born yet.
Oh, hope. The world was full of hope. We things could only get better. And
wasn't that the theme song of Tony Blair's
it was
election campaign? Yeah.
Yeah, vote for spooky benevolent dictator. No, vote for Dave benevolent dictator.
Vote for the abolishment of humans.
How do you define a human? I have to go down to definitions here. Nerdy thinks back to the Roaring 20s. I mean, the problem I've got is, right, the late 90s were fucking awesome. Okay?
Yeah.
But to be fair, that was my 18 to 21-year-old, and I was drunk and fucking a lot. So it was great.
Fair.
Yeah, my 90s as well.
At least my 18 and 19 years, it's not going to be quite as much fucking as I could otherwise get away with.
They say if you remember the 60s, you weren't really there. Well, I don't remember much of the 90s. The 90s were my 60s.
Well, this is the point.
Yeah, I feel really sorry for my baby sister because she's 3 and has autism and is now dealing with lockdowns.
You're going to miss out on this one thing. It's one of the things my daughter's got because she was born before. There's a reasonable chance, given the state of health, that she will see 2 turns of the century. Because she was.
Yeah,
born
I was born 2 years too late for that.
Yeah.
Well, 3 years too late for that.
You'll look back now how the old people look back now at Spanish flu, at COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
And hopefully not 2 world wars in between.
Hopefully not. No.
Well, who was it who said that? I don't know how World War III will be fought, or what manner of weapons World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with bows and arrows.
That was Einstein, wasn't it? Or it was either Einstein or one of the people around the Manhattan Project.
Yeah, I think it was Einstein, actually.
I think it was. He said it was something like, I don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
That's right. Yes. And I think he was onto something.
But the problem is are we clever enough now to know to not blow each other up with nukes? I mean, do you know what? I've the last couple of years, I have really enjoyed reading. This is going to sound really disturbing, and I really should mute my phone. I have really enjoyed reading things that have come out of the Soviet Union.
Fair.
Okay.
About how they felt, the meetings they had, and what they thought at the times when we were having stressful relations with them. So, for example, getting the minutes of their meetings when they were having the Cuban Missile Crisis was going on. You know, and you look at this and you look at the various different things that went on and how they were interpreted, and how growing up, I grew up in the 80s, how I was fed what had happened. And they were terrified that we were going to attack them.
Yes.
They were terrified that we were the aggressors, that we were going to wipe them off the face of the earth. The fear in what they wrote in their diaries is palpable. And you read all these crises as though they are the aggressor at every point.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating.
It is, and history is written by the victors, as they say. Although these days we do hear more of the losers' side.
Hang on, I've got the quote here. I can find it. Yes. I don't know if you can see that clearly enough.
I know not what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. So there you have it.
I was watching an interesting mini documentary as to whether or not dropping the atomic bombs was necessary to end the Second World War. And the problem is, it pretty much universally comes out as probably not.
Yeah, I was going to say, off the top of my head, from what I learned in RS and history, I wouldn't think so.
But it was necessary from a geopolitical perspective. That's the difference. It wasn't necessary to end the war because Japan were probably in a position to give up. It did allow the Japanese government to paint the Americans as barbarians. We have to give up, otherwise they're going to use this terrible weapon repeatedly on us.
Yeah.
But most importantly, it showed the Russians that we had a weapon. Well, the Americans had a weapon of that power.
See,
Yeah.
I was taught at school that it was necessary because the Japanese were never going to
Yes.
surrender.
Yeah.
But then,
See,
but
they
then
did.
No, Japanese government at that point was in two factions, one of which was backed by the emperor that wanted to surrender, and one of which that was not. It turns out, from a political point of view, they kind of put their bit too much faith in Russia intervening. Again, these are the interesting things. Reading the notes that came out since.
I find it really funny, some of the bullshit they told us in RS.
In RS.
Yeah.
They would tell you
Because in RS, we had to do a unit on ethics, and we looked at the atomic bombs being dropped and shit. And what they told us was that the bombs were only dropped after Japan was given an ultimatum, and the emperor declined to surrender.
Firstly, the emperor didn't get a choice. The emperor was willing to surrender. They offered. It turned out they were willing to surrender before they offered to surrender.
Yeah.
Okay, but they were not willing to offer unconditional surrender.
yeah.
The sticking point was the emperor's position.
Yeah, and I find it. I find it really funny that the way they framed it to us in this ethics thing was, and because they refused, we had to bomb them so that they would agree.
But my objection has always been, maybe you could argue that Hiroshima was necessary, but Nagasaki as well. I just felt that that was overkill.
I don't think so. They hadn't surrendered by that point. I think if you were using it to something to force surrender, they hadn't surrendered by that point. There was definitely a tide. There was definitely an opinion within the Japanese government that the Americans only had one. I don't know how prevalent that was, but there was definitely an opinion that they only had one. So therefore they used it. So all right, they're not going to be able to do another one for another several years.
I see.
So that's that. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was more internal Japanese fighting that stopped them surrendering, rather than.
I feel like the same could probably have been solved by inviting several Japanese generals to some sort of desert somewhere and just dropping a bomb there to show them it still exists and there's more of them.
Well, that's one of the arguments that's made. One of the arguments that's made is there's no why did we not just demonstrate the bomb to them elsewhere? Why did we not? Well, we were quite capable of. We had prisoners of war. We could have invited them over. There's lots of things. We could have warned them. We could have told them we're going to drop a bomb on Hiroshima on Thursday, and they could have evacuated the city. They had no air defenses at this point. The Americans had complete control of the skies at this point, pretty much.
Yeah.
There didn't need to be the death toll.
No.
But the biggest lie I think that sold is it prevented a Japanese invasion, us invading the mainland. Right, which they reckon would have cost 2 million American lives.
Yeah, I need to read up on this because my understanding of this is just GCSE level. So
mine is little more than GCSE level because I've done only a bit of reading on this since GCSE.
Mine on this is mostly documentaries. That's how.
Okay.
But lots of documentaries from different perspectives.
I mean, I've watched documentaries about the Second World War, but not the Japanese side of things.
Again, it's one of those things. I think that there are more coming out now because we're reaching a period further forward in time enough that we can get official documents from their side to understand what they were thinking. And they were kind of. The war would have been over sooner if we'd have accepted their non-unconditional surrender, leaving the emperor in position. Especially because we left their emperor in position. We used their emperor.
I find it really funny that we didn't accept their surrender. Then when they did give us the surrender we asked for, we basically gave them the surrender they asked for.
Yes, because it was the only way to stop realistically, we knew that it was the only way to stop the Japanese fighting.
Yeah.
You needed the emperor. Their setup, their emperor was still in this time period, which is not that long ago. Their emperor was a god. It was divine. Their emperor was more than human. So they needed him.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that could have been better handled, and while I know it's nice to say that in hindsight, I feel like at the time they probably could have thought of it, at least some of these things.
As well, I don't have any problem with them dropping of the bomb, and the people that are pissed that now talk about the ethics of it from a we shouldn't have done this because of this, right? We didn't know as much as we know. I can turn around and say now we knew that the Japanese government wanted to surrender. They were only worried about the emperor. We didn't know this.
Yeah, when you've got unknown factors, people get scared quickly.
Yeah, I've got no. Even if we can look back now and say it wasn't necessary, I don't think you can turn around and say I probably still don't have a problem with them dropping them.
Yeah, I think
necessary.
See, I think I can say that they probably shouldn't have done, but as far as they were concerned, they should.
Yes, that's it. That's completely it. That's completely my opinion. And I think there are lots of times in history. It's one of those things where no, I won't go down that route. If given the information you have to make decisions.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You are never going to have perfect information. You make the best decisions you can. I watched a wonderful documentary last night about the oil pipelines. Yeah. We equipped ships for D-Day to lay oil pipelines straight onto Utah Beach, from the UK, so that we could fuel our advances. Right, and this pipeline was this fantastic achievement to be able to get fuel over there without having to use tankers to get fuel over to France. Was just fantastic, and they talked about the engineering involved, and that this was such an achievement. We failed completely and utterly. It wasn't ready. It was ready 3 months after D-Day, by which point it was too late. We got tankers in. We had air superiority. It wasn't relevant. But it shouldn't take away from the engineering of it.
Oh yeah, like the engineering of that thing was fucking hell. I've looked at some of it.
And we did other things. We did other pipelines later once we got control that went across from Calais and they were better. But we probably wouldn't have been able to do those had we not done the first.
But yeah, like for what was effectively a prototype, they did an incredible job.
Mm.
Yeah. And I feel like society generally needs to stop looking at history as this thing we can almost change.
Yes, I know you've got me talking about the number of things I've seen on Twitter at the moment about the Y2K bug. About the fact that if you get millions of smart people fixing a problem, then half the population will believe that problem never existed.
Yeah, if you can do the thing before it happens, people will not believe it was ever a threat.
Yeah.
Which, while it's nice to not have to deal with, is frustrating. and possibly speaks to the level of education some people reach in 18 years.
Yeah, I think I am very disturbed at how America has gone.
And I'm very, I guess, glad that a lot of people my age now are significantly better educated than their parents.
Yeah.
And as such,
but we're going back.
I think we're better equipped.
We're going backwards now, though. Disturbingly.
In what way?
I would say, well, mostly with the it's the watering down. It's the advent of academies. The level of education doesn't seem to be as broad.
Yeah, I have big issues with the education system. I just think it's better now than it was 20 years ago.
No, I'm not convinced it's better. It's better than it was 40 years ago. I would agree with.
Fair enough.
Not convinced. I think there have been improvements, and I think there are still a lot of improvements to go.
Oh yeah, I have several opinions on things that they need to fix and bits of the system they need to rehaul.
Yes. Well, at the end of the day, the problem is it needs to be. I'm absolutely convinced that the education system needs to be completely gutted now that we've got decent internet.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can give I think that the way students and teachers learn together needs to. I think that you should be given lessons by the best in the world.
See, I'm of the opinion that people should be given lessons by a few of the best, and then there should be more local, effectively, teachers that you can interact with.
Yes, that's exactly. You're describing exactly what. Right. So the point is you go and get that lesson by someone that is terribly enthusiastic that can do it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the best at that subject. They're the best at conveying that subject.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't go very often. You'll find that some of the best in the world tend to be quite terrible at conveying it. So they're the best at conveying, the best at teaching it, and then you have a much more local level, and you can split it down into much smaller groups where you can get one-on-one, and also the speed of learning. We actively slow down the more intelligent. Yeah,
I can attest to that.
And at the point at which we can take in the younger we are, the more we can take in and learn quickly.
I am of the view.
Go on.
I am of the view that we should also change how we do learning, such that not only do people learn at their own pace, but that if someone finds something they're interested in, we allow them to fall down a little rabbit hole for a little bit, and then bring them back round to the main topic.
My point is, if you have more personalised education, again, which connectivity allows us to have, you don't necessarily need to lose. A class does not need to study at the same speed. You end up with you can have someone in a class room that is not a teacher but is a monitor, so that people can do stuff, and then have teachers. It's this splitting up of resources. So when you need a teacher, you get a teacher, but when you don't need a teacher, you just get a fucking supervisor.
And
should classrooms be small? Should classes be smaller?
No, not right. Well, no, I think it's completely on its head. I think classes should be way bigger.
It depends what you mean by classes. If you mean the amount of people being supervised by a single person,
yes, very much so.
Yeah,
I think that the amount of people being taught by a single person needs to go up, but the amount of people being supervised by a single person needs to go down.
Yes, that sounds very right. And the point is, there's no reason now, because you can have this personalized learning experience, there's no reason you can't have a room with 1,000 kids in it and dozens of teachers, and they're all learning in small groups within that room, as long as you have active monitoring in terms of what people are doing. The groups are small and close knit, but you can switch between them and use. It's one of those things where it flips it on its head. But your ultimate thing is more adults or more mentors, more supervision, just to less people, but access to more resources.
The problem I had when I was at school, when I was at secondary school, was that I'm autistic, but in those days, autism wasn't on. It just wasn't on the radar.
No,
it wasn't. So me and a few others who were autistic, we were given the label remedial.
Yeah,
we were remedials, and some of the crueler kids called us Rems or Remos, and we were taken out of the mainstream class, and we were put in the remedial class. And unfortunately, they taught us stuff that we learned at primary school.
Yeah,
because that's what they thought that we needed. And another unfortunate thing was that the kids who just didn't want to learn were put in that class as well.
Yeah.
And it was a mess.
It's still.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's still like that. It is still like that. I'm one of the very few people in my school who have autism who were not in bottom sets. And it's not that those kids were dumb, it's that the teachers couldn't teach them.
Yeah.
This is why
I learned half the shit out.
Personalized education. You really need personalized education.
My teachers let me go. They weren't supposed to, and they could have gotten a lot of shit for this. But a lot of my teachers let me read ahead in the textbook, and so I already knew all of the shit they were teaching, and I helped the person sat next to me in most lessons.
Yeah.
Because the teachers let me get on with it because they knew that I had. Well, it's weird that I got tested for autism at 11. I think it was, or 9 or some shit, or youngish, and they told me, "No, you do not have autism. Go back for another test at 17. How the fuck did you not get diagnosed with this earlier?" was the response I got back. I'm one of them.
I didn't get tested for autism until my late 30s.
How old are you now?
I'm 44. Going to be 45 in March.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy. I'm happy you're that old.
Yeah. But the thing is, what happened was I was suffering, really badly with depression, to the point of being suicidal, and I had to wait 12 months before I got cognitive, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and after a few sessions, the therapist said, I think you've got a few traits of autism. I'm going to refer you to the autistic diagnostic department, and so you can start the process of being tested. So another 12 months passed, and eventually I got tested, and lo and behold, they said, "Yep, you're autistic. Yeah, you're definitely autistic. There's no doubt about it." And I can't help thinking that if I'd have been diagnosed when I was a child, and if maybe more was known about autism when I was at school, I would have gotten more support than I did, and more tailored, more support.
No, you wouldn't.
More tailored to my.
You wouldn't have done.
Well, maybe I'm naive. I don't know.
The amount of support now is not good, and the amount of support you. 2 seconds. How much support did you get? What age you diagnosed? 14. So 14. Got no support whatsoever. And
so the support that we get is that the especially mentally ill kids get sent into a room and sat with a couple of supervisors, and they're allowed to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because that's easier than dealing with. I know that there's somebody that's a member of our community that I won't mention on the stream because I don't know whether or not it's that has a kid and is constantly fighting to get them the help they need and to constantly to prevent them just getting dumped into a room.
Yeah, I had the advantage of all of the teachers liking me without needing to try, I guess, because I've always been a nerd, and I just kind of read the textbook and went, okay, I know the shit now, I'm fine.
And we have Robert X with us as well now, which is
we've gone on a bit of a sidetrack, haven't we? We're meant to be discussing the state of the world.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, that I think another reason that the education system is failing us is that I genuinely do not know someone between the ages of 16 and 22 who is not depressed and hasn't been suicidal. I don't know any of them.
What needs to change? What, because bloody hell, I mean,
we don't have an answer to that question. That's the problem. Well, because we don't at the moment. We are stuck in a system between mollycoddling to the point that we are creating dysfunctional adults on one end of the scale, and on the other end of the scale, completely ignoring people, so they end up with dysfunctional adults.
So the thing, I think,
go on.
I think that the thing is that they focus so heavily on teaching us abstract things that they don't teach us practical things, and they give us zero mental health help, and they're pushing us to learn more and more in the same space of time to the point where it's becoming untenable for the human mind.
Yeah, I know someone whose son is quite who's autistic. Unfortunately, he and his now ex-partner, they were fighting tooth and nail to get their son diagnosed, tested for autism. But his teacher and the headmaster, they kept saying, no, he's perfectly normal. He's they're throwing chairs around, when he becomes overwhelmed. It's perfectly normal behavior for a boy of his age. But now, thankfully, they managed to get him tested. Now he's got the diagnosis, and he is getting a bit of support. But it took a long time. It took a very long time. It was a big struggle for them.
It would be nice if we could actually have mental health help, because the mental health help I got when I went to the college nurse and said, listen, I have depression and anxiety to the point where I'm physically incapable of writing in lessons. Don't tell my mum because she will just ground me. Later that day, my mum found out.
Yeah.
And that was all that happened. They told my mum and said, right, we've done our bit now.
I have ill thought out opinions, but I don't want to say because they get me shot. I think there is an awful lot wrong with how we are bringing people up, but I don't think we are going to fix it, unfortunately, until we address the religious involvement.
Fair. I mean, I'm one of the most well-adjusted people my age I know, and that concerns me because most of my adjustment occurred through trauma.
Oh, the disturbing amount of depressing. Just the statistics are depressing to the level of there's so much that is fluid about a human.
Yep.
And we seem to have set in stone these certain things that we cannot possibly be sure are right, and we're trying to achieve them.
I feel like a good analogy for that might be a bit like, your stereotypical Victorian garden where it's like keep the grass exactly an inch tall and have no other plants grow in it. And that is what a garden should be. And we still have, to some extent, that Victorian ideal today, though it's starting to break down a bit.
Yep.
I feel like it's like that.
Yes.
I'll be right back. I get into silly arguments because what people think are normal. What's normal now is not normal. It was not normal 100 years ago. Was not normal 100 years before that, and was very not normal 100 years before that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oddly enough, I will tell you something. I have argued. I've been argued. No one has disagreed with me particularly yet. That it was probably better for functioning autistic people 100 years ago than it is now. Because the rules of society were simpler. You knew where you fitted.
Yeah.
Whereas now, the world is your oyster. You can have anything, you can do anything, but you have to interact with all these different people on every different level.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
So you can't just do a job now. There is basically no jobs you can do now where you can just go in and do your work and go home. Again? Yes. Got to be a team player. You've got to go in, you've got to interact with the team, you've got to get on with everybody, you've got to manage the social situation of your workplace and go through all the team building and then go home. And you've got to navigate all of that perfectly without creeping anyone out or freaking anyone out or pissing people off. Or you can't just do the work you're paid to.
Yes.
Again, it's one of those problems at the moment. I mean, I can't work. I can't work because I can't concentrate. I can't sit. I can't stand. There's virtually nothing I can do that anybody would be willing to pay me for that they wouldn't be far better paying someone else to do. That's not to say that I couldn't do anything. It's just I can't do everything else that is required for a job reliably. If that makes sense. And it's not like I didn't try at the point where it all broke down. I don't know. It's weird. Right. I want Trump to be arrested in Georgia.
Yeah. He needs to be arrested. What he's done is illegal.
Yes.
So
Trump has charges definitely awaiting him in New York and probably in Georgia too. So he's in some shit.
Yeah. And
he needs to come at a federal level. It has to come. The Democrats have got to do it at a federal level. That's the thing. For it to stick, it's got to be full on. He is brilliant. He has made a career out of manipulating the law.
Oh yeah.
That's not to say he can't. He will escape it, but he's only at most he's got 30 years of life, right? Yeah. And you can drag these court cases out forever. Yeah, and that's what he will do unless it is forced upon him. And I think it has to come from a federal level to do that.
Yeah. Teflon Don. I've been saying for a while, a lot of people say, as soon as Trump, comes out of the White House, is going straight into prison. He isn't.
No.
That's not going to happen, I'm afraid.
No. I don't think he'll ever see a prison cell. I think the best we can hope for is that there is enough pressure on him that he isolates himself.
Yeah.
That he runs off to Russia or somewhere horrible.
I think the best possible outcome we could hope for is some sort of house arrest, whether that be legally enforced or just through merit of him not being able to leave the house.
Yes. And I'm hoping that regardless that he lives long enough to get prosecuted properly, mostly because they can start seizing assets back from his family.
Yeah.
If he dies first, the rest of the family are going to get to keep everything.
Yeah. But he won't. I don't think he'll see the inside of a prison cell. I don't think that's going to happen.
There was a very interesting piece of news that I read, or a speculation. I think speculation is going to be the best way to describe it. That says, why hasn't he pardoned his kids for anything? That most of them are up on something, and it was speculated that he hasn't pardoned them because he thinks they'll turn on him.
Ah, that's an interesting way to look at things.
Well, this is it. I mean, the people he's pardoned are people that were already absolutely screwed. And he hasn't pardoned anyone that did turn on him. So it's interesting to see who he's going to pardon next. But I'll be fascinated if he doesn't pardon his kids. I mean, the problem is what you get them for. You've got to admit a crime. As far as I can work out, you've got to admit a crime first. Yes. I'm not even convinced Trump is capable of admitting he's wrong.
No, he still believes that he's won.
Yes,
it's kind of an odd. We're going to talk about this in the stream that I've got coming up, and the importance of 1984. It's kind of like double think. Holding two contradictory ideas at the same time and believing them both to be true.
Cognitive dissonance is a bitch.
Yeah, on one hand, he says, I won. I won Georgia. On the other hand, he's saying, can you please find all these the votes that I need to win Georgia?
Mm.
And I think he believes both of those contradicting statements to be true. Or he's convinced himself anyway. He believes but I certainly believe he's a malignant narcissist. He's behaving the way a malignant narcissist behaves when they fail.
Yeah. He is. Oh.
I certainly think that the fact that Trump still has support, not only in the US, but in other places, including here as well, shows that there is an issue with the system somewhere.
The issue is that you can repeat lies over and over and over again.
Mm.
The reason it's the reason Brexit happened. Yeah, the reason Brexit happened is it is all to do with years of lies.
Yeah,
that were let go, mostly because they were small lies, but they all built up to this point, and there is no one to challenge people. There is no mechanism in our society to really deal with people that are lying. Because there's no arbiter of truth. He's managed. I mean, the amount of damage, even if he has ripped off the American people for trillions, even if he hadn't destroyed massive chunks of the government, that are going to take decades to recover. He has done so much damage to the trust in the government that I'm not convinced it is possible for it to survive long term. It needs a cleansing. This is why I think he needs to be prosecuted.
Oh yeah,
he needs to be dragged through the courts with the GOP members, probably and hopefully exposing the goddamn evangelical right that have pushed their court picks, that have manipulated the government for the last couple of decades. There has been no fair play in their government.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm of the opinion that both the US and UK systems for politics are badly built on purpose, effectively.
Yeah.
To a degree, yes, I'd agree with that. I don't know. The US government's meant to have a mechanism. The US government was built to prevent this.
I think that it's more shenanigans beget shenanigans, and later things were put in to try and circumvent it by politicians for politicians.
Well, I think you're right there. You'd think... I don't know. The US had such a good legal basis. And
they solidly tried.
Well, the point is that because they tried, because there is a group, they failed because there is a group that wants something different, and that group is willing to bide its time.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the problem. And at the end of the day, that's why it looks like why pretty much all religions succeed. If you are willing to think beyond your lifetime, if you're willing to build something beyond your lifetime, there is a reasonable chance you will succeed if you can convince others.
Yeah, and I think religion is an example of it. I think that what it actually is like religion is part of a category of things it is that I'm not quite sure how to define yet because I'm still reading up. But organized, I think it's more like organized orthodoxic religion is my personal issue, because there's a lot of religion that I don't think is an issue. I think it's the organized orthodoxic shit that is.
No, I got into an argument with someone there, mostly because I occasionally piss off heathens, because I go down the route that religion is harmful. Not because I believe that all religion is harmful. I actually firmly do not believe that all religion is harmful. I just think the majority of it is. And I think the majority of practitioners that are in it are harmful and being harmed by it.
I think you can argue the majority of it that exists is harmful, but not that is necessarily the case.
No, I think I can. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And I could actually agree with you there. I think there just needs to be a bit of a conversation around the nuances of it. Because I'm quite happy to say...
I think the word religion is... I think because of what it means to so many people, I think you're pretty much stuck on it being religion is harmful. Nerdy has a good point. I could just say that. Anything that denies science is harmful.
This is accurate.
And I think the reason why the term religion has such negative connotations to it is the reason why a lot of Christians say, "Oh no, we're not religious.
No,
we have a relationship with Jesus." But well, you are religious. You participate in religious activity. You are.
They have been intentionally.
Yeah.
So they're a bit. It hurts my brain so much. I'm in the middle of watching a bloody Paula Gia episode, which is talking about where the current Young Earth movement came from, and it's
I saw that one. Yeah.
Right, I haven't got to the end of it yet. Don't spoil it.
I've not seen that one yet. I don't think.
Right, it is fascinating. Firstly, how young the Young Earth movement is. It's 100 years old. That's it. Not only that, the fact that it's basically based on a couple of people, then a book, and it summed up Ken Ham's life quite well. And it says how they've been successful, how they have managed to get it to where they've managed to get it to, and it's terrifying. It's so easy.
I think out of all the harm any religion does, my biggest issue is with how much things like it's not just, but things like Christianity infantilize people and stop them developing properly.
Yep. No, I think the most harmful things that religions do are they put in place the mental things to defend them. Yeah. They put in there the only a fool says in his heart that God doesn't exist. Only they put in these blocks, these
mental stopping techniques
that are are meant. And the worst thing is people think they're meant for people outside their religion. The number of things that they're taught that really they're meant to stop them thinking, literally to stop them thinking. They think a target are actually talking about other people, but it's to stop them getting stuck. It's to stop them leaving.
Yeah.
It's the reason I have issue with forbidden knowledge. Because once you have forbidden knowledge, you have someone who can hold something over you.
Yep.
Yes.
It's part of the reason that I'm so open about pretty much everything around me is that I can't be asked with the drama of someone attempting to blackmail me or whatever.
No. I think that this is the way. I think that this is how. It's one of those things that the religion has done to us. Again, right? Everything you think about modern society right now, about relationships with people, about any of this stuff, okay? And you've got to think that back 300, 400 years ago, you lived in a room with your parents, with your grandparents, with half a dozen other families. Everything went on in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So your relationships and how you interacted with people were very different. Everything to do with sex, everything to do with personal relationships with family. It's all in front of you. You got to experience it. You got to live it. You knew how you were meant to interact with people. And there was no hiding anything. There was no secrecy in that sort of context. And it functioned fine. It's religion and purity culture that came later that's put us in this situation that we don't know. That we think there is something to hide, that we think there is something shameful, that we think there is anything. And the worst thing is I have no idea how to fix it. That really annoys me. I sit and try and fix it, try and work out how to fix it.
I think that the thing is that it becomes very difficult to distinguish what the changes are because of technology and what the changes are because of religion.
Yes. I mean, it's one of those
because
things.
As tech changes, like I'm in a long distance relationship with someone in Florida. And I think that long distance relationships as a concept are now more viable because of technology.
Yeah.
But I'm also polyamorous, which means I'm fully aware that I've had to push past a lot of Christian shit to get there. And I'm probably still missing some of it that I've not pushed past.
Problem is, we haven't dealt with. There's so much about human nature that it's hard. It's hard to pin down what's real and what's learned. Okay.
Yeah, I think that potentially, while we can't know what the best way forwards is to fix everything, we can know what the best way forwards is to know, which would be to remove the bit of the education system that strips curiosity of us.
Not, I don't disagree with that sentiment, but the issue I have with that is that you still need. Okay, I can work out a perfect society. Dead easy.
Yeah,
I can work out a perfect society. I can work out.
It's just getting people to agree with you.
No, I can get people to agree with me. That's not too much of a problem. The issue is that it removes all choice. Okay, you completely remove all choice, right? And people. Okay, I got half the kinks that we have nowadays. They're only valid kinks because of the way our society is. They wouldn't.
This is very true. The human mind.
They wouldn't exist.
The human mind does seem to change around the society we exist in, and then because of that, society keeps shifting and shifting.
Yeah. Right. So the point is they wouldn't exist. And that's fascinating in its own right, because they're real, but they're also not.
Yeah.
So the point is if you are to try and define a society, you have to turn around and say, if you teach everyone, okay, we've got it now, we're here now, right? Vaccines are the perfect example.
Yeah,
you grew up with vaccines. You grew up in the 80s. We still had people. My nan was blinded by measles, I think. We still had people that we lived with, people that had been killed. We didn't live with people that had been killed, but we lived by people that had been permanently disabled by the things we were being vaccinated against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one doubted vaccines. No one doubted vaccines because we lived through the end of it. And all of a sudden, you end up with a society. We have people now that have no concept of what life was like without vaccines. So they think that there is something else, that there could be something government control. It could be something risky. It could be.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment
change society. My point is you've fundamentally changed what this means to society. It's moved on, and you're coming not from a place of sick people that you're helping. You're coming from a place of well people that you're fucking with, as far as they're concerned. Sorry, go on.
So I think a perfect example of this is the fact that one of my exes, I'm currently trying to help them convince their mum that vaccines and masks are not part of a government conspiracy to control us.
Yes. I find the masks one hilarious because the masks are so irrelevant.
Yeah.
And to people...
What I want to know is why are Peter saying that milk causes autism?
Oh, God in hell, because it's not hard to get a study that will show it.
It's easy to get a study to show anything causes lots of other things. In fact, if memory serves, there's actually a thing that there's a rough correlation between TV usage and cancer. I think it might have been liver cancer, something like that.
Yeah.
Purely and simply because the technology around the two things developed at similar paces, such that we find it more frequently now, and we've got more TVs now.
Yeah.
And people assume that correlation does equal causation because they don't pay attention in maths lessons and science lessons. Sorry.
No. And they don't understand. Over and over again, they don't understand the numbers, and I'm fascinated. We have to lie to people now because you can't be honest, and this is a problem I have got, and I don't know whether or not it's good or bad, because you have to lie. People want 100% certainty, right? Which is what I don't understand. Was they don't get it with religion, which is like really annoys me, right? So you want a vaccine. And the turn around and say, is this vaccine safe? No. No vaccine is 100% safe. Full stop.
I think you can say it's safe, but if they ask if it's 100% safe, then it's no. It's like 99.9 or whatever.
They ask because that's what they've been told to ask. Right? And this is the problem. You either have to lie to them, or they need to understand what the real risks are. I mean, the COVID one, I loved the COVID one. I had the one that the best one I've seen was when we were at about 98% survival rate. Okay, so we're at 98% survival rate. That's fantastic. So every 100 planes that fly, 2 of them crash. Would you fly on a plane?
No, I'm barely willing to fly on a plane as it is.
But if that were the odds, if you had a 2% chance of your plane crashing, would you fly on it? Who in their right mind would?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit like going, okay, so there are like 50 of you here, and we've got 50 guns, and we're going to point a gun at each of you. One of them's loaded. Either you put on a mask, or you'll get shot with the gun in front of you.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't take that risk. People would just put on the mask. But when it's indirect, people don't understand that the numbers are the same.
I boggle at the fact that it's the Christians that are fighting the masks, pretty much universally in the States.
And that amuses me because they would be really offended if we started saying clothes are a government scam, let's all scrap clothes.
I know, over and over again, I'm denying about it. I mean, it's warm enough in the States to do that. Stop mandating clothes.
Here, I don't think we would have to make it, like, technically speaking, being naked in public isn't illegal here unless someone asks you to put clothes on.
I don't know. A society makes my head hurt.
Yes.
I think the thing is that society is internally contradictory and has a lot of microcosms within it that are not necessarily distinct.
Yes. No, Nerdy's right. You're masking your genitals. My genitals need to breathe as God intended.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I had quite a fun conversation with one of my friends earlier who is an atheo-pagan about how easy it is to set up like a new religion and how many people will just go along with the bullshit.
The problem is, the person at the top, someone has to be prepared to lie.
Yep. And once someone, the thing is,
or be economical with the truth.
No, they've got to lie. Or be delusional, or you've got to believe it. You've got to believe some of it yourself. Never underestimate being delusional. I mean, I'm fairly certain that's where an awful lot of it's come from. But at some point, you're stuck with you've not having. People want certainty that you cannot give them.
I think that the thing is, though, that part of the wanting certainty is the culture that Christianity has created, where your eternal soul is being banked on this thing.
Yes, but the problem you have is if you don't give them certainty, your mate down the road, who will give them everything you're saying, but a certainty about one bit of it, will outbeat your religion.
Yep.
Right, and this is the problem. Religion is 100% evolutionary behavior, 100% behavioral evolution. You can track it in exactly the same way. The models fit. It is survival of the fittest, and right now, that's not good for us.
I think the thing is that
we need education on a massive scale.
Yeah, and I think that some of the big things that need to change are that a lot of the harmful elements of traditional religion need to go away, and we need to educate people, and we need and this is where I also kind of have an anti-capitalist soapbox, but I'll not go on to that now.
Here's the worst thing is, I think a purely capitalist society could work.
I think it could. I think it
could work, but it requires a government that enforces honesty in business. and that means you can't have religion. You can't have people. You can't have a religion. Religion literally destroys capitalism. The reason our society breaks down now is because we can't put a true value on a human life. We can't calculate how much of a life is worth to you, because religion tells us that it's priceless. Of course, it's not priceless. They have a value. There is a value to it. Would you be willing to go and put yourself on the line at Chernobyl with the people? Are you willing to go in to save thousands of people? Well, you're going to die, but we'll see that your family is taken care of. That's worth £10 million to your family. There is a value there that has to be calculated in.
Yeah, and
until you can do that honestly, you can't have a capitalist society. Religion breaks it on so many levels.
I think the other thing is that you mentioned having a purely capitalist society. I'm going to be the pedant to point out that a purely capitalist society wouldn't have a government.
I think you probably,
economically speaking,
I think it would, but I think that it would not look anything like. I don't think it would look anything like we have now. I think you would be paying somebody to take care of your interests. Yeah. I think you would be paying people for your security. I think you would be paying people for. I think you would end up with a government. I just don't think it would look like anything that you like that we have now.
Yeah, and the furthest right I tend to go is I think that what a stable position is a strong social democracy.
The problem I've got is I have. Okay. I don't disagree, because I am firmly of the opinion, and America did this very well, and the EU was doing this very well up to a point. I am firmly of the opinion that it is the job of a government to create and enforce standards.
Yes.
Okay. If you have that as the key part of your job, all of a sudden you can have trade between people, an agreement between people that is fair. Okay. So that includes employment contracts, that includes basically your entire system of contract law. That means that you don't necessarily need socialized programs, because you can buy into something like a socialized program, if that makes sense.
I think that becomes a semantic game.
I think you're right.
If it's equivalent to, I'm happy to call it the same thing.
Fair enough. My point being is that I think that I've been arguing about it at the moment. The problem I've got is I think that people want to exploit people for gain.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now I don't want to misrepresent and say not everybody does, right? But enough people do that you have to deal with that group of society for the group of society that doesn't want to exploit to live. All right. So the point is, at any point, you have to build a society that allows for a level of exploitation. But the point is you have to work out how you control that and you restrict it.
Yeah.
Whilst both the capitalist society we have got and the communist societies that we tried to set up do not take that into account.
Yeah. I'm also of the opinion that while communism would be nice, it won't work while we still have kind of individual countries as their own economies and not a global economy properly.
No, it won't work, full stop. Not because it won't work. Okay, I think it's entirely possible to set up a communist society that will work. The problem is not setting up the communist society. The problem is exactly the same problem I just explained to you about a religion. about setting up your own religion. It only takes one person, it only takes one Trump to come along and promise something slightly more for giving up seemingly something little, and it will collapse.
Yeah.
Well, I think this will be true. I think this will be true up to the point. Go on, sorry.
No, the problem you have got is not designing a society, right? Like I said, this is why I can give you examples of different things, right? The issue is not how you design a society that is this, or this. The issue you have got is in a generation's time, how do you stop someone exploiting it and destroying it?
Yep.
Right?
And I think in order for example, communism I mentioned, I think it's plausible. I think in order for it to be stable, we need to be post-scarcity. I think we can have post-scarcity, but until we reach that point, I don't think communism will work up to that.
We're never going to have post-scarcity on a level that we're never going to have post-scarcity on a level that works. I
would disagree, but I think that's got to be a point to agree to disagree at this point in the stream.
Yes, probably right.
Yeah.
I just you don't. Energy becomes a limit.
Yeah.
Even if we end up with replicators, we still require energy sources, and if you then take into account distances involved in it, unless we get something magical, energy is just gonna restrict everything. And for some reason, we don't seem to be able to get past keeping up with the Joneses.
No,
that really annoys me.
Yeah. Anyway, have we put the world to rights?
No, we skipped all that. So I think we're going to be doing lots more streams in the next few weeks.
I think so.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna wrap things up because Dave wants a sandwich, and so do I actually. He's mentioning of the.
I've still got leftover pigs in blankets.
Ah, very nice. So we're all going around Dave's for pigs and blankets, and but I just want to plug a couple of things. I've already plugged the 1984 stream that's happening. Hang on, let me bring up my calendar a bit to tell you exactly when. I'm so
last I looked, it was the 13th.
Yes. You're more organised than I am.
No, it's just I have other stuff going on that day that makes it very memorable.
The 13th is happening on the 13th of January, Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And but before then, this Wednesday, I'm chatting with our very own Sam Chaos. That's happening at 10:30. And I'll be introducing him to everyone. He can tell us all about himself, and so that's going to be a fun stream, I think.
Yeah, that'll be good.
And also, I've got a new channel called Sofa Reacts. And people who have children will probably know what a reaction channel is. There's plenty of them out there where they just watch, or they watch shit on YouTube and react to it basically, and so that's what I'm going to be doing, but a kind of more kind of grown up version of that, if that makes sense. Anyway, watch this space. There's content coming soon. I just want to and also I want to finish by saying my channel will never be monetized. Even if it gets to 1,000+ subscribers, because I will not have adverts on my videos for for my own reasons. And
I'll argue with that. I'll argue with you about that at some point.
Yeah, but I have my reasons. But so yeah, but there are other ways you can support this channel. There's a link to my Patreon account in the description, and there's other, you can buy merch and you can do other things as well to support this channel. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say really, and thanks for coming along. Thanks to Critical Cripple, aka Dave, and Sam Chaos, and to everyone who's in the chat, and everyone who's going to be watching in the future. And yeah, and so give us a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of my content, then do subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video. Okay.
Also, he'll be on my show tomorrow night.
Yes, I'll be on Dave's show tomorrow night. Exactly. And yeah, so bye for now.